Okay, good morning. Welcome. Have some props ready so you can take a moment to get your props out. I have a chair. I have books in lieu of a block. If you have a block, you don't really need your books. You know, use your block. You can have a foam block. You can have a cork block. You can have a wooden block. They used to actually use bricks. Old schoolers will call these bricks. They'll say, go get bricks, even though it's a block, because in the old days, they used to pick up bricks from construction sites, and that's what they used. Have a strap or a scarf towel, strap substitute. So if you need a moment to get those together, get them together.
Dada.
Yes, sweetheart.
My berry bird and snuffleupagus are the same size.
They're very big. And then come to a seated position. And notice what your current experience is. Are you feeling like you're floating around, that there's no grounding here? Are you feeling grounded? Are you feeling numb? Some people are feeling numb because we don't like the sensation of not knowing. So instead of feeling the not knowing, we numb ourselves. So without trying to change what you're experiencing, can you observe what you are experiencing? Now we can even take this one more level, which may be helpful as we move through the class. Iyengar, when he talks about the Yoga Sutras, he talks about samadhi, that eighth limb of yoga, that blissfulness, that nirvana, that what we're all seeking. That takes place when the seer becomes the seen, when they merge, when the seer and the seen become one. And most of our time is spent being the seen. Right? We are the one who is doing. The doer is the seen. And we want them to merge, but it's hard to merge the seer and the seen until we actually identify who the seer is and have an understanding of the seer. So who's the seer? So there's the person right now who is sitting. And then there's this observer who's normally judging it. Well, it feels good, it feels bad, I'm doing it right, I'm doing it wrong. And in order to begin to get to the seer, you have to take even a step further back. Watch the judge. Watch the observer. So don't simply be the observer, but can you know, it's kind of like they say, you know, if you're working on a hard business project, they say, you know, let's take a step back and take that 30,000-foot view, right? Because when you're inside of the muck and the details, you can't actually see what you're doing. Well, it's the same for the yoga practice. It's the same for all of life. Yes, you have to be in there doing, but can you pull yourself out right now as you're sitting here and not just watch the person who's sitting, but really take that 30,000-foot view and watch the person who is observing, watch the person who is judging. The powers of observation are endless, but we have to learn even how to observe slightly differently. Now, if none of this makes sense to you, then observe. Be the observer of the doing. That's okay. But some of you have certainly been practicing more. And are you able to take that extra step back and not just observe the doer, but observe the observer? So see how you might take that for now into this class. And after class, into other activities you may be doing. So bring your palms together with your thumbs at your chest. Let your eyelids close from top to bottom. Rest your eyes into your cheekbones. So you can be the doer for a moment, making the adjustments, balancing evenly on your sit bones. Lengthening through the inner thighs, from the inner thighs to the inner knee, from the inner thighs back towards the abdomen. Descending the flesh of the inner thighs, from the front of the leg towards the back of the leg. So in this case, that's down. The inner thighs releasing down. And as you draw from the outer knees to the outer hips, compacting the hips together. And then taking a moment to observe the results of those actions. So there was the doing. Now observe the results, observing the effects. Now, Prashant Vikas Iyengar's son talks about, yoga is not the actions themselves, but it's the effects of the actions. So observe the effects of those actions. For me, my whole torso is lifted up higher. My face is softer. It may be different for you. That's okay. I feel more grounded. If you are feeling a lack of grounding, you can imagine your sit bones really going through your lift, through the floor, and really connecting into the Mother Earth below you. Find that imagery. And then after observing the effects, can you take one further step back? And can you watch the observer judging? Because when we observe effects, let's be honest, we judge them. Feels better, feels worse. I like this, I don't like this. And that further out observer, the one who is watching the observer, is completely neutral. Simply watching the observer do all the judging that the observer does. That's the seer. At least in my experience, that's the seer. And then continuing, lifting through the side ribs, front bottom ribs moving towards the back body, back bottom ribs moving towards the front body. Opening the chest. Opening that top of the back as well. So the whole torso becoming wider. The torso becoming taller, longer. The torso becoming wider. The breath can help. Inhaling, becoming taller, longer. Extending. Exhaling, becoming wider, broader, expanding. And then again, observe the effects of the actions. And then taking a step back, and it does take practice. I could not do this the first time I was doing it. I had glimpses of it. I understood it, but I couldn't really experience it. So if it's not quite making sense, don't give up. Can you observe the observer? Can you observe the judge? And as we do the ohms, 3 ohms together, can you watch yourself as you do the ohms? Instead of just doing the ohms, can you watch the experience of the person doing the ohms? Can you watch the experience of the person judging the ohms? Exhaling completely. Deep inhalation. Om. Keeping the front bottom ribs moving towards the back body. Keeping your sternum lifted nice and tall. Lower your chin towards your heart. Still a broadening across the chest, a broadening across the top of the back, shoulder bones moving away from each other. Release your hands onto your thighs with your palms up. With your eyes closed, raise your head. From the back of your head, gently let your eyelids open. Straighten your legs. Come to the edge of your lift. Have your hands by your hips. And take your feet together. I've been starting my personal practices more with sitting poses lately. And perhaps it does have to do with that sense of feeling grounded, of having this root chakra. And I'm not a chakra expert, but having this root chakra closer to the Mother Earth, feeling the connection, feeling myself rooted down. Balance evenly on your sit bones. Press the thigh bones down, lengthen through the inner thighs, from the inner thigh out through the inner knee, through the inner heel, from the inner thigh back towards the lower abdomen. The flesh of the inner thighs moving down, and draw the outer knees to the outer hips, compact the hips together. And pause and observe, and then observe the observer. Now, it's funny when you do this, when you take that role of observing the observer, observing the judge, you realize that there's this voice that just judges nonstop all day long. So you actually begin to watch that voice. Lift up through the side ribs, front bottom ribs towards the back body, back bottom ribs towards the front body. And ultimately, the arms do go straight here. If you can straighten your arms without lifting your shoulders, the elbows move towards each other, push into your lift, lifting the side ribs. So you're not thinking of straightening the arms. In fact, let me change the instruction. Don't straighten your arms, but push into the lift and make your side ribs longer. If the arms go straight, they go straight. But the object is not straight arms. The object is a more lifted torso. And separating the legs, separate them wide. Move back a little bit here. Now look for a second. Look at your kneecaps. Look at your feet. You want your kneecaps pointed straight up, and you want your feet pointed straight up. Most of us will start this with the feet turned out slightly. It's hard to see on the screen maybe. But you want to turn these thighs in so that the kneecap and toes point straight up. You can still take the hands by the hips. And again, find that lengthening. Well, first the thigh. So thigh bone down. Don't just push the knee down. Don't just push the shin bone down. But can you bring your awareness at the very tops of the thighs? See where my hands are? And even you can take your hands there. Take your hands and push down there where that crease is. Push down. Push the femur bone down. Now keep that down. Take your hands back to the sides. So now you have that awareness there because you had put pressure there. So you have the spot. And then go for the lengthening from the inner thigh out through the inner knee, out through the inner heel. And from the inner thigh back towards the abdomen. The flesh of the inner thigh is descending down, and the drawing of the outer knees to the outer hips as you compact the hips together. Notice if you're trying to turn this into a back bend, You want to keep the front bottom ribs towards the back bottom ribs towards the front body. So you're actually becoming longer, not just creating an arch. And then again, taking the elbows towards each other and then pushing in to lift the side ribs. If the arms straighten, I don't have a problem with that, but that is not the goal. The goal is more lengthen the side ribs. And sometimes we'll end up just lifting the shoulders. And I recommend, as you have all this time now, well, son, not everyone has a lot of time. A lot of people are still working at home, and even working at home with kids running around. But for those that have time, I would try practicing this pose 5 minutes a day and moving up to 10 minutes a day. And then this next one here. Hold the inside of your knees, pull up, and let your feet come together. Baddha Konasana, 10 minutes a day. 5 minutes a day start, and get up to 10 minutes a day. Hands back by your hips. Start with your elbows bent. Now press the heels. Lengthen from the inner thighs through the inner knees. Lengthen from the inner thighs back towards the abdomen. So this whole area is lengthened. It's like you're lengthening an elastic band or a rubber band. Lengthening. The flesh descending. And then the drawing from the outer knees to the outer hips, compact the hips together. And remember, when you compact the hips together, don't harden the inner thighs. This has to keep lengthening and releasing as you compact the hips. And then there's the judge that comes in, the part that's observing this. Oh, I really wish my hips were more open. I really wish my inner thighs, my groins would be more released. And just watch the observer. Life changes when you watch the observer. Now maintain this awareness, understanding of your legs. Don't turn this into a back bend. So front bottom ribs back, back bottom ribs forward. And then push into your lift to lift the side ribs up. If the arms will come straight, the arms will come straight. And then take your hands out by your knees. Use your arms, push your legs together. Hold behind one leg, draw the flesh towards the buttocks, drag the heel to straighten the leg. Other leg, draw the flesh towards the buttocks, drag the heel, straighten the leg, toes up, feet together. First noticing, where are you now? Where did your body wind up? Then adjusting, thighs down, lengthen the inner thighs, descend the flesh of the inner thighs, outer knees to outer hips, compact the hips together. And keeping those front bottom ribs in, using the arms, not to straighten the arms, but to lift the side ribs. Perhaps they come straight today, perhaps not. I don't straighten my arms every day. Today they seem to get mostly straight. They're still a hair bent. If I really go for the final straightening, I'll take it in my shoulders, and I don't really want to do that. So I'll give up in the arms before I do it in the shoulders until I can really get more length in the side ribs. By the end of class, maybe I could get a full straight arm. But that's not the goal. The goal is lift. So by the end of class, maybe I'll have more lift through this torso, through these side ribs, so that the arms will straighten. And release. Let's come up to standing. Let's do some shoulder work. So starting in Tadasana, feet together. If feet hip distance apart is more comfortable for you, that's totally fine. Balance evenly on the feet. Press the thigh bones back. Not the shin bones. I know I'm not seeing each and every one of you, but I know some of you press the shin bones back. Press the thigh bones back. You can actually take the shin bones forward as you press the thigh bones back. And now there's that lengthening from the inner knee all the way up through the inner thigh towards the lower abdomen. The flesh of the inner thigh is moving back, and lifting of the outer knees to the outer hips, compact the hips together. Lifting up through the side ribs, watch those front bottom ribs. So front bottom ribs back, back bottom ribs in. Move the shoulders down, extend through the arms. Then take your arms out to the sides. Drop the shoulders, hold your arms up from your armpits for a moment, and from the midline, both the front and the back. We tend to focus on either the front or the back. And I want you to have an awareness of the center of this chest, center of the sternum, and the center between the shoulder blades. So the spine between the shoulder blades, and extend outward. So from the center of the chest, out through the thumbs, from between the shoulder blades, out through the pinky side of the hands. Now from your armpits, begin to rotate your arms up. Don't just rotate the hands, do it from the arms. The arms only go so much. Armpits only go so much. So then at the very end, yes, turn your wrists so your palms face up. Now my front ribs just went about 5 feet forward in the room. All right, not 5 feet, but they went some inches forward. So I have to take those front bottom ribs towards the back body, thigh bones back. And then from my armpits, push the arms up. Well, there goes the chandelier. Walk a little forward here. So front bottom ribs back, still doing the work of the legs. And then we were working on this a little bit last week. Don't just take the arms back, but can you open the armpits? If I focus on opening the armpits, my arms move much more than if I just struggle to take my arms further back. And take your hands out to the side, exhale, come down. As if you're pushing the air to lift the sternum. Interlacing your fingers together, we often do these. Interlace the fingers together, gently touch the tips of your thumbs, turn your palms out, push the webbing together, keep those ribs in, keep the thighs back, inhale, come up. But don't think of lifting the arms up. Think of opening the armpits ever so slightly more, and opening those armpits without pushing the front ribs forward. So the front ribs go back, the back ribs go forward. Hug the upper arms into your ears and extend your wrist towards the ceiling as you take the shoulders down, and extend the wrist towards the ceiling as you push through the feet. And take your arms forward, turn your palms to face you, switch the interlock. So the opposite first finger is on top, touch the thumbs, turn the palms out. Now this time, pull the webbing of the fingers together. I'm sorry, pull the fingers apart, but allow the knuckles to grip. So you're trying to pull the fingers apart, but not allowing them to pull apart. Still keep those ribs in, ribs back, thighs back. Inhale, come up, open the armpits. Don't just take the arms back, but open the armpits. Don't tuck the chin to do that. Chin parallel to the floor. Ribs in, front ribs in, arms up, wrists up, shoulders down. Extend through the wrists, press through the feet. And then release the arms, come down. Now this next one, some of you have done this with the wall. So we've done it with the wall like this. Some of you that have come to the studio. But I'm going to do this in the middle of the room with you. Okay, you can do it in the middle of the room. It's a slightly different experience. So take your right arm. You're imagining there's a wall there, and you're extending out. So from your armpit, extend out to the inner arm. And you really have to, for this, you have to really extend through this base of the hand, the bottom of the palm. More through the thumb side than the pinky side. You're going to want to push the pinky side away from you. Push the ball of the thumb away from you. And try and keep your fingers completely perpendicular to the floor, pointing up towards the ceiling. I'm trying to give you different views here. Drop the shoulder. And then first take the hand flat just to release, and then take your arm down. Okay, so this is just to give you an idea of what we're doing. We're going to do a little bit more. So other arm. Drop the shoulder. Extend from the armpit out through the inner arm and push that ball of the thumb, or even just a little bit underneath the ball of the thumb, that corner of the wrist, not the thumb corner of the wrist, not the pinky corner. And keep the fingers pointing up towards the ceiling. Some of you will feel like you have two different arms. Well, they are different arms, but that these arms are connected to two different bodies. That there's no similarity whatsoever. And then just flatten the hand for a moment, take the arm down, Tadasana, check it. Right arm, extend it up. Drop the shoulder. From the armpit, extend through, not even the ball, but underneath. I'm going to get a little closer here. Right here, that point, the bottom part, push out. So right where the wrist is. Now we're going to turn the arm out. Rotate the upper arm out. Now when you do this, here, let me instruct better. I want you to turn the forearm slightly in as you push through that part of the thumb or that part of the wrist as you turn the upper arm out. So the hand and the forearm are resisting the turn, the upper arm and shoulder are turning, and the fingers are pointing towards the back. If anything doesn't make sense, someone, do the raising your hand, that button in Zoom. So I know that you don't understand, or do a chat thing, so I know something's going on. And then you're going to keep going and rotate, turn the forearm in, but the upper arm rotates out until the fingers are down. So fingers pointing down, arm up, shoulder down, extended from the inner arm, again, through that thumb side of the wrist, and trying to move the fingers to point straight down. You can see my fingers aren't straight down, but I'm really working that. Moving from the armpit. Now there is the opposite action of the outer elbow to the shoulder blade, right? So there's a circular action still. So we don't want all the energy to leak out. We contain the energy, but we're really opening up that armpit area. And then coming back, turning the arm so the palm faces up, flattening the hand so the arm extends out, and then take it down. Now check into the two sides of your body. They may feel extremely different. Left arm up. So first the palm up, drop the shoulder, from the armpit extending through the inner arm, through that inner wrist, that thumb side of your wrist. Now the hand, the forearm, wants to resist. Okay, that does not want to turn, but the upper arm will turn it, right? So turn it. But keep the forearm turning in. It's subtle. And then extend from the arm and from the armpit out through that thumb side of the wrist. The palm faces back now. Notice how the shoulder likes to come up. I can even see myself in the video here. The shoulder likes to come up and the arm likes to drop. So I have to keep the shoulder down and the arm up. And then continuing that, the forearm is going to resist. It's going to want to turn in, but rotate the arm so the fingers face down. Drop that shoulder. See my shoulder lifting here. So I have to keep the arm up but the shoulder down. And try and point the fingers towards the floor. Front bottom ribs still stay in. And then turning so the fingers point up, flattening out the hand, arms down, both arms Tadasana. Maybe they feel a little bit more even now, but still quite different for many of us. Now we'll do both arms at the same time. So arms up flat first, extending from the midline, front and back. And then begin to turn the palms, the fingers up. Drop the shoulders, extend from the armpits out through the arms, through that inner thumb side of the wrist. And then trying to keep the fingers up. The fingers will turn, but imagine you're trying to keep the fingers up by turning the forearm in, rotate the upper arm out until the fingers face completely back. And extend. Watch those ribs. The ribs are coming forward. Take the ribs into the body. Front, bottom, ribs back. And then again, continuing the turn, even though there's a resisting of the forearms, so that the palms face down. And if you do look at the screen, you will notice my hands are completely different. What I can do in this pose on the two sides is something completely different. On my left arm, this is my left, not mirroring, but the actual left. I'm close to vertical, not quite. But on this right one, is here, and I'm doing my maximum right now, as much as I can, and that's just as far as it goes. So I do have to accept, extending the inner arm, extending both arms through that thumb side of the wrist, and then drawing the outer elbows to the shoulder blades. And then turning the arms back up, palms up, or fingers up, flattening them out, and then coming back down into Tadasana. Take a moment to check in. That's a lot of serious work for the neck shoulder area, the armpit chest area as well. So Urdhva Hastasana one more time. Arms out to the side, drop the shoulders. Rotate the arms up, palms up. Watch the ribs, ribs in. Inhale, come up. There goes the chandelier. I don't know about you, but this feels like a completely different pose to me, having done the other shoulder work. Hands out to the sides, come down. Badanguliasana, interlace the fingers together. Turn your palms out. Push the webbing of the fingers together. Inhale, come up. Ribs in, front ribs back, back ribs in. Again, going for the opening of the armpits. Does this feel different to you? And then don't forget about that extra observer we're working with today, the seer. So you're observing, oh, it feels more open. Now take a step back and observe the observer. Observe the judge. And then arms forward. Turn the palms to face you. Change the interlock. Turn the palms out. Pull the fingers apart, but let the knuckles grip. Inhale, come up. Open the armpits. Front ribs back, back ribs in. Straight elbows. Then observe the effects. And observe the observer. Observe the judge. Release your arms out to the sides. Come down. All right, now with all these nice open shoulders, let's see how a downward facing dog is going to feel. So come onto your hands and knees. Spread the fingers. Press down through the ball of the first finger and thumb. Really push down to the inner hand. So again, that forearm is rotating in. And rotate the upper arm out at the same time, but not so much that you fall onto the outer hand. You have to find those opposite actions. Push into the floor. Lift the chest up off of your wrist. So not just sinking down here. There's this lifting up action. Turn the toes under, straighten the legs. Push into the floor. Inhale. On your exhalation, take your thighs back. Take your chest towards your thighs, sit bones towards the ceiling.
Keep the thigh bones pressing back. Keep the sit bones, the outer hips moving up and back. Push down through the ball of the first finger and thumb as you rotate the upper arms out. Don't lose the action of the inner hand. Find a lengthening through the armpits and side ribs. And as you extend the outer heels down, outer hips up, get a lengthening through the legs. And then come up, bend your legs, let your knees touch the floor precisely the same moment. And let's just take it one more time. Now watch the front bottom rib, watch the front bottom ribs, that they don't just collapse and sink. You want to keep those moving into the body. So starting with the arms, press the ball of the first finger and thumb, rotate the upper arms out, toes under, straighten the legs. Now even here, take the front bottom ribs towards the back body. Push into the floor, lift yourself away from the floor, inhale, keep the ribs in, exhale, thighs back, ribs in, lengthen. Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog. Lengthen through the arms, armpits, and side ribs. Keeping the front bottom ribs towards the back body helps the lengthening of the side ribs. Press the thighs back. Now, I should add, there's still the lengthening of the inner legs. So can you lengthen from the inner knees all the way up through the inner thighs? Can you take the flesh of the inner thigh straight back? And can you lift the outer knees to the outer hips, compacting the hips together? And now one more instruction. Take your abdomen, roll it into your tailbone, really draw it in firmly and strongly, and press your abdomen back towards your thighs, and get that, use your abdomen to get that extra length on the spine and side ribs. And then look up, walk your feet forward. Take your hands on your hips, elbows up, extend the chest forward, don't drop in the ribs, thighs back, inhale, come up. Tadasana. And then take your feet together. Utthita Trikonasana, triangle pose. Take your fingertips up by your chest. Bend your legs. Jump or step your feet apart. Now you want to be in one plane here. So a lot of us throw the hips forward and begin to lean back a little bit. So I don't want you to do that. I want you to press the thighs back, keep your shoulders over your hips and your hips in line with your heels. Lift the outer knees to the outer hips, also the lengthening of the inner knees to the abdomen. The flesh of the inner thighs moving back. Drop the shoulders. After all that shoulder work, you may feel a lightness in the arms now, that the arms can begin to float up, holding them up from your armpits, not your shoulders. Turn your left foot in, turn your right leg out. Take your front heel in line with your back arch. Keep pressing the outer rim of your back heel. Keep turning the front thigh from the inside out. Lift both outer knees to outer hips, compact those hips together. Now keep pressing the back heel. Reach with your back arm. So the left arm, keep reaching back as you come down. There's that resisting. So you get that space in the torso. Press the back heel. Turn that front thigh. Lift both outer knees to outer hips. And expand both the front and back sides of the body. Don't give up the back side just to open the front. But can you open the front side of the body and the back side of the body equally? And observe the pose, and then observe the part of you that is observing the pose. Observe that judging part of you that observes the pose, that makes all the comments. And reach through your arm and pull yourself up and out. Parallel your feet. Take a moment here. Are you holding your arms up from your shoulders or your armpits? Hold them up from your armpits. Are your legs still doing the work? Right foot and left leg out. Make sure your front heel is in line with your back arch. Really press that outer rim of the back heel. Turn the front thigh out. Lift the outer knees to the outer hips. As soon as I get that, instead of this falling, this waiting for it to be over because I'm sinking down, I get this lightness, this lifting, the torso lifts. Now I can be here. Now reach with your back arm, reach with the right arm and come down. Keep pressing the back heel, turn that front thigh out, lift both outer knees to outer hips. That helps rotate the torso as well. Extending now, as you extend the arms away from each other, extend both the front and back sides of the body. And then reaching up through the arm, pull yourself up and out. Parallel your feet. Jump or step your feet together. Take a moment to observe the differences in the body, breath, mind, and observe the observer. One more time, fingertips up, bend your legs. Jump or step wide. Drop the shoulders. Turn your left foot in, turn your right leg out. Now, take your hands on your hips for a moment. What we tend to do here, which causes the torso to collapse, which is why we always say open the front body, because we collapse it. This back thigh tends to fall in, and this front hip goes out. So there's this slight, I'm exaggerating so you can see it, but we're almost turning here. So I want you to take this back thigh back. Notice how that turns the torso towards the center here, and take this right buttock forward. So the back thigh goes back, the right buttock goes forward. Now to be clear, your hips are not getting on the same plane. You're not squaring your hips, but they're getting closer to that. Don't turn the front thigh in. The front thigh still turns out as you take that hip forward. And yes, there's the lifting of the outer knees to the outer hips on both legs. Now maintain that, extend the arms again. Now keep more awareness on your legs than your arms. Still extend through that back arm, but keep more awareness on the legs than the arms as you come down. I have to move more slowly in order to keep those actions I just created. The more I can lift up here, the more I actually go down. My hand is definitely further down now, but it's because of the action of the legs, not because I'm actually any looser. So back thigh back, not the shin, those of you that go into the shin, but the thigh, the top of the thigh, front buttock forward, lift the outer knees to the outer hips. You can look forward or up. I'm looking up just because the work I did with the legs caused my torso to turn so much that my head automatically looked up. So you have to get the work of the legs. Now observe the pose and then observe the observer. And reach through the arm and pull yourself up and out. Parallel your feet. Take your hands on your hips for a moment. Keep the feet wide though. We are doing the other side. One more time. Actually, keep the hands on the hips. Right foot and left leg out. So let's do that work. So the back thigh has to go back. The front thigh does turn out, but as you lift the outer knee to the outer hip on that front leg, that hip goes forward. That buttock goes forward. So back thigh back, front hip buttock forward. Lift both outer knees to outer hips strongly. Back thigh back, front hip forward. And my torso is more squared now because of that. And I can also press into the back heel more because of that. Extend the arms. But did you lose your legs when you raised your arms up? So get the legs back, back thigh back, front buttock forward, front hip forward. And keep more awareness on the legs than the arms. I'm not concerned what happens to the torso and the arms. I'm concerned that you maintain as much as you can the legs as you take your arm down. Keep the legs, keep the legs, keep the legs. Back thigh back, front hip forward, lift both outer knees to outer hips. And then adjust where you need. Back thigh back, front hip forward, outer knees to outer hips. Extend those arms now away from each other without losing the legs, front and back sides of the body. Now observe your pose and observe the observer. Then reach through the arm, pull yourself up and out. Parallel your feet. Jump or step your feet together. Tadasana. Check in. What's different? What's changed? Hastasana, arms forward. Inhale, arms all the way up. Watch those ribs. Push into the feet, extend through the arms. Is there a difference? Turn the hands out to the side. Exhale, come down. Now let's do it the way we've been doing it. Take your arms out to the side. Drop the shoulders. Hold the arms up from the armpits. Extend out, front and back sides of the body. Rotate the arms up. Then the palms up. Ribs in, thighs back, ribs in. From the armpits, push the arms up. This is the same pose as you did before. Is there a difference? Observe the pose. Observe the observer. Turn your arms out to the side. Exhale, come down. All right, let's take the chair. You can take the chair onto your mat or wherever it is. For me, on the mat, I think it's easier for you to see. So you take your right foot forward and your left leg back, and the right foot is in front of the chair. We're doing Parvita Trikonasana, revolved triangle pose, because I still don't teach enough twists, and they're really important. We're square to the side of the room now. So the front thigh turns out, the back thigh turns in, lift both outer knees to outer hips, and really compact those hips together. And see if you can really press into that back heel. If you can't, you can always take a blanket or a towel or a block or a pillow, and you can have something underneath your back heel. Now lift your chest. Now take your torso down and just take your hand in the center of your chair, so it's over your foot. And then notice how that front hip comes forward. Can you take the front hip back so you're lengthening the side of the body? And then begin to rotate. Keep the hips compacted and rotate, rotate, rotate. And if you have your balance, you can extend your arm up. And there's an extension through the front side of the body, especially if you can really extend those arms away from each other. But don't give up the back side of the body. So front ribs back, back ribs in. And open up the front and back side of the body, not just the front. And take your hand on your hip. Turn your torso towards the chair. You can actually take your hands on the chair for a moment. And then switch legs. So the front leg goes back leg goes forward. You want those hips squared to that wall in front of you. Turn the front thigh out, turn the back thigh in, lift the outer knees to the outer hips. But again, that left hip tends to come forward. So can you move that left hip back? So that here, with your hands on the chair, the side ribs are equal in length. That the left side is not shorter than your right side. Compact the hips together. That's really going to help. It's also going to help to lengthen the inner thighs from the inner knees to the abdomen and take the flesh of the inner thighs back. Now take the right hand now in the center of the chair over the foot. Take your left hand on your hip. Move that left hip back. And as you compact the hips together, begin to rotate. You can push that hand down into the chair rotate, rotate. Press the back heel. That helps with balance. Lean back. Extend the arm up if you have your balance. If not, keep it on your hip. That's fine. And extend those arms away from each other so that even as you're pressing through each of the feet, you're extending through each of the arms and extending through the front and back sides of the body. And then take your hand on your hip, turn your torso towards the chair, both hands on the chair. You know what, as long as we're here, let's just walk both feet back, downward facing dog. Extend through the arms, thighs back, hips up and back. Then walk your feet forward. Tadasana, check in with yourself. Twist can move a lot of stuff around. So you want to take a moment to observe. Notice that judgment that takes place when you're observing here. And then observe the judge. It can be pretty funny. When you really practice this, it can sometimes just be amusing watching the judge do its crazy work of judging everything. Judging you, judging the world around you, judging the pandemic, judging the point of views on the pandemic and how we're relating to it, the laws that are given to us. All right, so we'll do it one more time. A couple things I want you to think about. So one is eventually the hand is on the floor, right? So if you want, you can use the chair. If you want, take a block or books. And if you want, if you have the flexibility, you can take your hand onto a block. Any size block. Also, we tend to, I'm going to see how this really shows up in the video, but we tend to either lean forward or overdo it and lean back and actually turn it into a back bend. And I want you to resist doing that, right? So we either do this, looks like that's noticeable, or we do this. And I want you to keep your torso perpendicular to the walls. So on the chair, like this, so you're just turning. So the spine is not moving in space, it's just turning. And if you go down to the block, then here we are. Actually, if I'm using the block, I probably need to be a little further back. Because that block should be on the outer foot, okay? Right, so I'm not leaning forward, leaning back, but I am seeking, good thing the chair was there for balance, I'm seeking to keep my spine in that same plane and just turning it, not moving it forward or back. All right, so keep that in mind as we do this again. Use the chair or the block. If you're using the block, you'll have to be a little further away from the chair because the block should be to your outer foot. If it's further back, you're distorting the pose, okay? So let's start with your hands on the chair, right foot forward, left foot back. If you're using the chair, the block goes really under, the foot goes underneath the chair. If you're using the block, then you can be a little further back, your hands can be a little forward, and the block will be here. That's totally fine, okay? So first, get the hips. In either version, get that right hip moving back. Lift the outer knees to the outer hips, lengthen the inner thighs from the inner knee to the lower abdomen. Take the flesh of the inner thighs back. And then hand either on the chair in the center of the chair, right hand on hip, or if you're doing the block version, make sure you have enough room for that block to the outer foot, that's fine too. But notice how that right hip comes forward, and can you push that right hip back so the sides of your torso are even, okay? And then keeping that spine in the same plane, don't let it move forward or back, just turn. Twist from the base of the spine to the top of the spine, twist and turn. Don't push those front ribs out. Front ribs back, back ribs in. Front ribs back, back ribs in. And then if you have balance, extend the arm up. Don't extend the arm if you don't have balance. If you have the arms extended, extend the arms away from each other. Extend both the front and back sides of the body. That's why we want to keep the spine in that same plane. If we're leaning forward or back, we're extending one side of the body more. And I want you to get both. Observe the pose and observe the observer of the pose. Observe the judge. And then hand on hip, turn your torso towards the chair. Hands on the chair. Switch legs. So again, if you're using the chair, foot underneath the chair. If you have more flexibility or the balance, it's also a balance issue. So I'm using the chair today, but you can use a block. Take your foot a little further back. The block goes on the outside of the foot. Ultimately, your hand is on the floor on the outside of the foot. So square those hips first. So take that left hip back so the two sides of your torso are equal in length. Then take the right hand either in the center of the chair above the foot or on that block is totally fine. But again, take that left hip back. The two sides of your torso are equal. Now, before you do the turn, get those legs, outer knees to outer hips, lengthen the inner groins, the flesh of the inner groins. Even as I do that, it's causing my torso to turn. So take the turn. Don't lean forward or back. Don't lean forward or back. Keep turning. Keep turning. Turn from the base of the spine to the top of the spine. And if you have your balance, then certainly extend the arm up. This is Parvita Trikonasana, revolve triangle pose. And then hand down, turn your torso towards the floor, hands on the chair. And let's do Adho Mukha Svanasana, hands on the chair one more time.
But then why are you doing both hands? When are you going to do downward dog?
Well, that's what we're doing. We're doing it on the chair.
No,
And then walk your feet forward.
I wanted to do it on
We're going to do one more on the floor. Okay, let's do it.
But I
Hands on
already
hips, extend the chest forward. Inhale, come up.
But I already ate
And let's do it one more time on the floor. Mateo wants to do it on the floor, and it's a good time. Let's check in how these standing poses affect our downward facing dog, our Adho Mukha Svanasana. So hands on the floor. Now, of course, if you do it in the chair, just do it in the chair or the stairs or blocks. Press through the ball of the first finger and thumb as you rotate the upper arms out. Push into the floor, lift the chest up off of your wrist. Turn your toes under, straighten your legs. Now, don't sink in those front bottom ribs. They move towards the back body. Push into the floor. Inhale. Exhale. Thighs back. Ribs in, even as the chest goes towards your thighs. Even as the armpits go towards your thighs. Lift up through the hips. Outer heels down, outer hips up. Extend the legs, extend the arms. Observe the pose, and then observe the observer. How'd you get there?
I want to be.
And then look up, walk your feet forward. If someone's underneath you, be careful. Hands on your hips. Extend your chest forward. Inhale, come up.
Let's do one more.
One more.
You go.
You want me to turn around? All right, one more. Let's start from Urdhva Hastasana, okay? So arms forward, arms up. Ribs in. Does this feel different than it did, right? We did this pose, I don't know, 40, 50 minutes ago. How is this different now? Now turn the palms forward, inhale, exhale, come down. Take your hands on the floor. Of course, if you can do it with straight legs, do it with straight legs, but nothing wrong at all with bending your knees to get your hands on the floor. And then take your feet back. Thighs back. Don't sink in those front bottom ribs. Take them into the body. Push through the ball of the first finger and thumb as you rotate your upper arms out. Press your thighs back to pull yourself off of your hands. And as you extend the outer heels down, lift the outer hips up. Compact those hips, but keep the lengthening and the releasing of the inner thighs. Hey, bud. And then look up, walk your feet forward. Take your hands on your hips, extend your chest forward. Inhale, come up.
Now let's do Garudasana.
Take your feet together.
Now let's do
Tadasana.
Garudasana.
Garudasana. All right. One more shoulder opener. Mateo's teaching the class too. And it's a beautiful one. Notice how your shoulders are. We've done a lot of shoulder work today. This pose is often difficult for people. So take your right elbow over your left. You cross your forearms and touch your palms together. Now, as soon as I get here, the thighs go forward, the ribs go forward. So thighs back, ribs in. And then take your upper arms parallel to the floor, forearms perpendicular to the floor. And rotate your wrists so that the knife edge of your hand faces forward.
Now let's do that.
We're not done with this yet. Take your shoulders apart, broaden across the back. So the elbows move into each other, the shoulders move away from each other. And broaden that top of the back. And then release. Isn't that nice? Take your left elbow on top of your right elbow, cross your forearms. Touch your palms. Elbows up. So forearms parallel to the floor. I'm sorry, upper arms parallel to the floor. Forearms perpendicular to the floor. Rotate to the wrist so the knife edge of the hand faces forward. Move the elbows into each other. Move the shoulders away from each other. And release. You know, that was really interesting. I want to thank you, Mateo. That was interesting. I usually do that pose towards the beginning of a yoga class to open up my shoulders. I don't often do it at the end of a class. But that is quite a different experience. We do need to play with how we sequence these poses to see what they're like. Personally, I got into that pose much deeper, so much that we're going to do it again. Now, it helps in this pose to fly your arms out, right? This is Garudasana, eagle pose. So what I often do is I swing the arms out like a bird and then swing them back in, okay? So from Tadasana, swing the arms out, swing them back in. Right elbow on top of left. Upper arms parallel to the floor, forearms perpendicular to the floor. Rotate the wrist so the knife edge of the hand faces forward. Move the elbows towards each other, move the shoulders away from each other. This is a beautiful way to experience the pose after we've done so much work. And then the other side, you release and swing your arms out and then swing them back in. And of course, if the swinging doesn't work, don't swing. Ribs in, upper arms parallel to the floor, forearms perpendicular to the floor. Rotate the wrists so the knife edge of the hand faces forward. Now squeeze your elbows towards each other, into each other, as you move your shoulders away from each other. And really broaden across that top of the back. In this pose, not that you're seeking to compress the chest, but the chest is compressed here. Broaden the back. And release. Well, that demands another downward facing dog. So hands on the floor or your blocks or your chair. Rotate the upper arms out. Push into the inner hand, extend through the arms, toes under, straighten the legs. Inhale, lifting, extending. Exhale. Come into the pose. Thighs back. Push into the hands. Lengthen through the arms, armpits, side ribs. As the outer heels down, lift the outer hips up, lengthen through the legs. And that abdomen again. Take the abdomen, roll it into your tailbone and press those thighs back. And bend your legs. Come down, touch your knees to the floor at precisely the same moment. Take your feet together. Spread your knees a little further apart. Take your sit bones on your heels. Extend the arms forward. Rest your head. Adho Mukha Virasana. Downward facing hero's pose. Often we call it child's pose. If your head's not hitting the floor, you take a blanket or a block or a book or a towel or a couch cushion. Rest your head. Take your hands underneath your shoulders, push to come up.
Take a blanket under your head. Take a strap. We're going to do one more thing before we get into our Shavasana. Just take a strap, or it can be your scarf towel. Have your head support, because we're going to move into Shavasana after this. Lie back. We're just going to open the legs up for a moment. We're doing Supta but I don't want this to be that hard version that we often open a class with. I want you to open yourself up into the pose, okay? So bend your right leg into your chest. Put the strap around your foot where the heel meets the arch and straighten your right leg. And I do not want you working your hardest here. Do press your thighs back. I want you to focus on the thigh going back, but then lengthening the inner groin the way we've been doing. The flesh of the inner groin moving back, and draw the outer knee to the outer hip. And then drag your left heel on the floor, straighten your left leg. And again, don't work your hardest here, but where can you find just a little opening? And bend your legs, not staying there long. Bend your left leg into your chest. Strap around the heel meets the arch, straighten your leg. Also, notice how this pose is different when done at the end of class than at the beginning. So press the thigh back, lengthen the inner thighs, flesh of the inner thigh releasing, outer knee to outer hip. Drag the right heel, straighten the right leg. And then allow the right leg, the work of the right leg, to match the left leg so that the legs are working the same. Observe the pose, and then observe the observer. Don't work your max. Instead, open. And then release your legs. Bend both legs into your chest for a moment. Give yourself a little hug here. This is a beautiful opportunity to say something kind to yourself, to say something loving to yourself. And take your hands on the face of your knees. Inhale, take your legs away from you just a little bit, a few inches. On your exhalation, draw your legs towards you. Inhaling, legs moving away. Exhale, the legs draw towards you. Inhaling, legs moving away. Exhale, legs draw towards you. Do a few of these breaths on your own. And on your next inhalation, take your feet to the floor. Take your hands to the top of the buttocks, scoop the flesh towards your heels. Straighten your legs one at a time. Let the legs fall away from each other. Take your hands comfortably at about 30-degree angles to your body, but wherever is comfortable. If you need something under your knees, obviously take that. Let go. Observe where you are. Observe where you are. Begin to make some adjustments, letting the arms and the legs go. Letting the torso release. Widening of both the front and back sides, a releasing of the whole torso, front and back. Feeling yourself connected to the Mother Earth below you. Let the Mother Earth hold you and support you. Let the skull release. Rest your front brain on your back brain. Let the brain itself become smaller, denser, drawing away from the bones of your skull. Soften all the facial features. Draw the ears inward and begin to listen to the breath from the inside. You do not need to breathe. The breath will breathe you. Can you be an observer for the breath? Notice the breath breathing you. And then again, taking that step, one further step away, and observe the observer of the breath. So there is the part of you that is breathing, or the body that is allowing the breath to breathe it. The breath breathes you. So there's that you part that the breath is breathing. There is the observer of the breath breathing this body. And then there's one step further away, the observer of the observer, the seer. Can you, even if it's for a glimpse, take the role of the seer? Shavasana. Slowly lengthen the inhalation. Take a longer, smooth, peaceful exhalation. Wiggle your toes, wiggle your nose. Bend your legs. Take your hands onto your abdomen or chest. When you feel ready, extend your right arm past your right ear, roll to the right side. Of course, left side if that's easier for you. When you feel ready, place your left hand on the floor in front of your heart. Turn your torso towards the floor. Push to come up. Come up chest first, head last. Come up to sitting, any sitting position that's comfortable. I'm sitting in Vajrasana with my buttocks on my heels. You can sit cross-legged. You can sit in a chair. Bring your palms together. Taking a moment to observe the practice, noticing what's different and what's changed in the body, in the mind, in the breath. And then taking a step back and observing the observer, becoming the seer. With gratitude, let's close our practice together by chanting one collective Om. Deep inhalation. Chanting, let your eyes open. Big smile. Namaste. Bow to the divine within you. Well, thank you, everyone. I'll unmute everybody.
Better everywhere.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Thanks,
So
Jonathan.
much. Before you all leave, I do just want to say a huge thank you. I got an email yesterday asking for donations. We've had a lot of members that are having financial difficulty that had to cancel. We're still paying rent and teachers, and we sent out an email, and so many of you have helped us in varying amounts. And I just want to say how grateful, how touched we are, and how grateful we are for all of you who donated and who are just even, we know not everyone can donate, and that's fine, and we get it. But you're here and you're showing up and you're keeping your memberships. And I just wanted you to know how truly, truly grateful we all are for you, that we can keep this community together. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you have questions, I'm here.
Chaya,
Uh-huh.
are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
I miss you.
Aw.
I miss it. I miss all the yoga studio and the teachers and friends. Yeah, I miss all of you.
It's true. It's true.
We will be back together again. I
Yeah,
miss all of you so much. You guys are amazing. I'm so grateful for all of you.
Take care.
Thank you, Jonathan.
All right. Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Have a
Bye.
good day.
You to keep this going for us.
Bye,
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, say goodbye.
Bye, Mitel. Bye.
Mateo's getting so tall.
He is very tall.
Look at you. I think you've gotten taller.
He has. There's no doubt he's gotten taller during the pandemic. All right. Bye, everyone.